Hi, my name is Klaus Meger. I retired in 2013 from an international corporate career in food service, developing food systems for theme parks, hotels, and entertainment centers, and then as a corporate marketing strategist for one of the largest food wholesalers in the world, operating in 30 countries. Now, I've since focused on the intersection of climate change and food. And what I learned has left me really deeply troubled. My oldest grandchild will turn 12 in 2030, and I can't imagine what 2030 will look like given current trend lines and what we can observe already unfolding around us. The changes in the environment are really progressing at an exponential rate, much faster than we expected even a few years ago. And there's really no time left to hesitate to respond. I mean, we are really running out the clock. We still have options, but the window for what I would call an orderly transition into a new reality is narrowing. So my partner and I formed the nonprofit Climate System Solutions to represent a perspective on the impact our food system has on both the environment and on human health. So with that, let me share my screen and get into some PowerPoint slides to better explain. So why the food system is the next frontier in climate? There are basically two levers that we can pull. One is energy, and energy is well understood. Reduce your temperature, your thermostat, buy an energy efficient car, change the light bulbs, and so on and so on. So we have been talking about energy for a really long time as consumers, as individuals also. But what comes into focus now is photosynthesis, which are also referred to as nature-based solutions, land use, forestry, water tables, and so on and so on. Nature's way to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and put it into the soil. So then also considering that 70 to 80% of our water is being used by agriculture, which is now taking center, which creates a natural hierarchy or prioritization. Yale published a paper recently that states, absent any revolutionary changes in dietary patterns or agricultural production practices, global food production and consumption is projected to contribute an additional 0.7 to 0.9 degrees of warming. 1/3 of global emissions comes from food as a system. When we consider fertilizer manufacture, food storage, packaging, transportation, and so on and so on. Astonishing 40% of our food is wasted in the process. So thinking about this, how we get from agriculture, which is roughly 11% in and by itself, to 30+% as a whole system, none of which can be changed in isolation. You can't change, let's say, transportation in isolation. Everything is connected and interlinked. So any change will end up as a whole systems change. But if we just reduce our food waste, as an example, we can significantly reduce the global emissions output of the food as a system. Chemical contamination is just a really serious issue. We have chemicals everywhere, in our water supply and in our water tables, in the food itself. It already has, penetrated the food supply. In the environment, we see the release of greenhouse gases. We see, water pollution that harms aquatic ecosystems, and then on human health with herbicides in crops, growth hormones, and antibiotics in animals. We have all kinds of issues that impact the human health. Total health consequences, of the American food system. An estimated 60% of the US healthcare bill is caused by a nutrient or linked to a nutrient deficient diet. Hypertension, obesity, cancer, diabetes have reached pandemic forms. So what we are arguing here is that soil health really is the core lever that that we can focus on that will solve these issues, because we can't repair the soil without reducing chemical inputs and creating damage in other ways. So why is soil health so important? The microbial life inside the soil is the foundation of organic life on land. Now, it regulates the water cycle. It stores like 2 to 3 times as much carbon in the soil as there is in the atmosphere, supports plants using photosynthesis to pull carbon and nitrogen into the soil. And it's the life support system really for everything on land. So because considering here that almost half the land that supports plant life on Earth has been converted to croplands, soils have lost 50 to 70% of the carbon they once held, and 25% of the carbon up in the atmosphere really is from carbon released out of our soils. Conversely, the carbon sequestration capacity of soil is immense. Now, the scientists are estimating that an additional 1.85 gigatons of carbon could be stored each year, if we were to convert to regenerative practices. And they argue this could continue for 20 to 40 years, provided that these practices are being kept in place and continued. This is a really important discussion here. Soil naturally holds water into the amount of organic matter it contains. So the use of chemicals in farming harms the soil microbiome, the life inside the soil, which in turn dries out the soil. It releases the carbon. So as that happens, the local evaporation process, the hydrological local cycle is being disrupted. Typically, 60% of all water, of all rain, comes through this local exchange. When the soil is dry, then that gets disrupted. So it rains less often. There are prolonged periods of drought, which are followed typically by storm systems, which creates havoc, and the soil can no longer absorb this water. The percolation rates of the soil are severely disrupted. So that we can already see play out, because scientists are saying that millions of acres, millions of square miles really of farmland have dried out and lost their life, their soil organic content, which is disrupting these small water cycles here. So conversely, healthy soil, with every 1% of organic matter that is being added to the soil, it can hold an additional 20,000 gallons of water per acre. Then consider that healthy soil will hold 4 to 10% of organic matter. These are significant, massive volumes of water that are normally in the soil and are now taken out of the rain cycles here. So where do we engage with all that said? What should we do as consumers, as food service professionals, government officials, as citizens, really? Where should we engage? What options do we have to participate? And there really are a lot of things that we can do. Starting out by saying that for farmers to shift into regenerative practices means they have to adapt to their type and condition of the soil. Access to water, to local climate, even microclimates, and then socioeconomic realities. And so we are referring to this as a bioregion, because the soil in Kansas is obviously different than in the Pacific Northwest or in Florida or California. So as farmers are adapting to their local conditions, they have to adapt by using specific types of crops that are conducive, native, practical for their application here. They may use seeds that are specialized to little rain, much rain, colder temperatures, warmer temperatures, and so on. And what is becoming obvious that as they are doing that, it's becoming clear that the current marketplace is not suited to facilitate the necessary scale of practical transformation that is needed to get regenerative products to consumers. So the process of shifting into regenerative practices is disrupting current supply chains. It requires the supply chain to change recipes, to change menus, to change the aggregation practices. So it's a significant shift. Harvard University, in partnership with the Culinary Institute of America, has developed the Menus of Change initiative, which is directed at corporate chefs, procurement managers, corporate decision makers, to support a shift towards plant-forward, also called flexitarian menus. The core idea here is to reduce meat consumption, which takes the majority of natural resources, and make meat an ingredient as opposed to center of the plate, and also encourage vegetarian and vegan recipes. Then we need to align recipes and menus with the products of a specific bioregion, which can be produced regeneratively and sustainably year after year in different regions of the country, just like we discussed in the previous slide. So let me introduce the concept of bioregions here. Cultures around the world have lived on their land for often thousands of years. Now think about Vietnam, India, France, Germany, Greece, the Mediterranean countries, and so on. And they have been able to feed their population, lived on their land sustainably without destroying their soil and damaging their watersheds. And they have done that by developing menus that follow the seasons and harmonize what the farmer can produce on a year-round basis, sustainably, year after year, generation after generation, in good health for the land and for the people. Also, there's no sacrifice needed here. These are exciting menus. They're colorful, they're tasty, they're fresh. If you have traveled in Europe or in Asia, food is fresh, it's nutrients rich, it has great mouthfeel. So there's no sacrifice required here, really, to shift into a flexitarian way of eating. USDA has created a number of programs to support local market development because these changes must start at the local level or really bioregional level. So we can help and engage with our local school catering, with local restaurants and grocery stores to support this transition. But above all, this needs the support also of the business community. And it is good to see that there are commitments that have been made already. Independent businesses have a hard time, they have a difficult time getting into the market, lacking access to shelf space and distribution channels. And just to explain, if you take all the farmers markets and all the CSAs combined, that's less than 5% of total sales. That may be 3 to 5%, somewhere in that range of total sales. So the 95% is, in this sector. So that means, we must have, a whole systems perspective and change out here. The good news is we can see innovations and innovators, already entering the market to bridge the farm and the farm-to-table supply chain, and bringing new and exciting products to markets sourced regionally or locally from regenerative farmers and regenerative producers. So how can we help? Science, tools, information to shift into regenerative practices is necessary for farmers to get access to. Financial support to compensate for investments, but also in all fairness, financial incentives, because this is a lot of work for farmers to do. Access to markets is foundational, as we just discussed, and then educating the public, tell others about the benefits of regenerative farming, and then talk with your grocery store and your local retailer. If you have kids in school, you can talk to the school caterer and engage in this, and then also your personal preferential dining habits. Share with your friends, explain to your friends and family, what you're learning in this process. So thank you for listening, and please share widely.